So look, if you want to grow your wealth, your income, and increase the amount of time off, then these are the shortcuts that can help. Welcome to the Wealth Creation Podcast. So look, if you want to grow your wealth, your income, and increase the amount of time off, then these are the shortcuts that can help. Welcome to the Wealth Creation Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. My name's Dan Latto, and welcome to Bricks, Clicks and Cashflow. This is a brand new podcast episode, and we thought, me and my mate Dave, we would just have a chat, like two old mates, old being the word, like two old mates in the pub, just talking bollocks really. And this came about. So first of all, welcome Dave. Nice to have you on.
Thank you, mate. Good to be here. We should have bought beer actually and pretended we were down the pub.
Well, I've got my, people think this is a cocktail and it's just Coke, but it's in a fancy mug. But people go, are you on cocktails already? It's only like midday. And I'm like, no, it's Diet Coke. Just, living a dream here in Spain on Diet Coke. But this podcast came about because I just got back from Funnel Hacking Live in Las Vegas, which was absolutely amazing. And I was talking to Dave and we spoke for about an hour, didn't we? And we covered so much. And I'm like at the end of it, I'm like, shit, we should have recorded this because this would have made an absolutely amazing podcast because it was just so full of actionable content for people, like stuff that I'd learned at Funnel Hacking Live. And so I said to Dave, how about you join me on Friday? Let's just talk bollocks for 2 hours and see how it goes. And I think listeners will get a lot out of this, and people watching live as well will actually get a lot out of this. And Dave said yes. So thank you very much. Welcome, Dave. How's your week been?
Pretty good, actually. Yes. Yeah, good all round. That's
what have you been up to?
One thing I was going to talk to you about, actually, I've just signed up for a mediation course.
Oh,
on mediating between people who have fallen out, basically.
Oh, nice.
So the idea behind it is the courts seem to be getting all blocked up with everybody trying to sue everybody. So they're really encouraging everybody to go to mediation before you go to court. And I think actually in some cases they're actually insisting you have mediation before you actually come to court. So talking to a mate of mine, she's been in property about 20 years or so as well, Kelly Lemon. She does some coaching as well, and she's gone down this path, and it's just like, that sounds really interesting. Really interesting. So the idea, I'll get qualified as in civil and commercial stuff, so no family type stuff, and specialise in property disputes.
Nice. And I know Kelly from many, many years ago.
You did come up in conversation, actually, yeah.
Did I? Sometimes that's good, and other times I'm like, sometimes that's not good. But no, 20 years ago, probably.
Yeah, no, she was very positive. Amazingly enough, she was very positive about you.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing.
Yeah, I was quite shocked. Were you her mentor for a while or something?
I don't know if I was her mentor. Quite possibly. It's a long, long time ago. It's like 20 years ago. But this is the thing that I think is really important, is that your reputation carries around with you for a long, long time. And there's a film with Tina Turner, and I can't remember who the lady is playing Tina Turner, but she's in court. She's speaking to a solicitor, and all she wanted was a name, and against Ike. And the solicitor said, "But you'll have nothing." And she goes, "Except my name." And I'm like, that stuck with me. I saw that film, like I must have been 13 or 14, so a long time ago. And Angela Bassett, I think it was, who was playing Tina Turner, if memory serves. And that stuck with me for a long time about how important your reputation is to continue all the way through. I had a guy that, I spoke on a property networking panel, expert panel at Manchester Property Networking Club. That was like 12 years ago. And it was about 2 years ago I spoke to him, and he bought a website from us. And I said, when was the first time we spoke? He's like, 10 years. I'm like, gosh, how's that for a sales cycle? 10 years from first getting to know me and actually getting a sale. So your reputation is really important. But I think that's a really cool thing, because right now I was just reading Paul Champlina from Landlord Action on Twitter. who I've spoken on stage with as well, actually, quite some time ago. And he was saying that the number of Section 21s has increased significantly because of the Rent Reform Act. So landlords are evicting tenants that they're thinking might be a little bit dodgy or have been awkward, shall we say. And also there's a rush to put rents up, which is interesting as well. So the mediation thing ties into that, because although they're putting a stop on Section 21s, as far as I know, not that I know everything, I might think I do, but I don't think I do. I mean, the last time I evicted a tenant, it took 9 months, and then they didn't move out, and it took another 2 months to get bailiffs in. And the day before the bailiffs turned up, they just moved out, left the house an absolute complete mess, like £5,000 or £10,000 worth of damage, and there's no comeback on any of that. But I have to laugh about mediation, because the mediation, as that in my mind, like my little imagination, it goes like this. Mr. Tenant, you've not paid your rent for 6 months. Can you pay your rent? Fuck off. Yeah, but you've not paid your rent. You really need to pay your rent. I'm not paying my rent. Ah, okay. Well, thanks for that. And what happens is, this is the way of, I call me cynical, but this is the way of slowing it down. So it's going to take 3 months to get into mediation because there's not enough mediators, maybe. So then you have to wait 3 months before you can even get to court, which makes that a 12-month process, not a 9-month process. I mean, call me cynical, Dave. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're the one doing it.
Well, the whole idea of it should be a lot quicker and easier and a hell of a lot more cost effective than going to court.
Yeah.
All you need to do is sort a meeting out with the mediator and the two parties. Their solicitors can be present as well, depending on what the conversation's about. And you just try to get them basically to negotiate a little bit and meet in the middle. And depending on who you listen to, it's about 80 to 90% success ratio of following a mediation, an agreement is actually reached.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because the agreement itself isn't binding. So that's quite why you have solicitors in the room who'll write out that agreement there and then for you. So it's all legally binding and can be done next week.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't think it helps on those tenants who are absolutely steadfast and refuse to move out. So I turned up at Doncaster Court for an eviction for a tenant, and I did the Section 8 myself, and I got it wrong, actually. Only a little bit, but I got it wrong. But who turned up with the tenant who's in full-time work, earning £2,500 a month, refused to pay his £500 a month rent? Shelter. So Shelter turn up, and they're defending him. And I'm saying to this woman from Shelter, I'm like, how can you justify, you've got a tenant here who's in full-time work, admits he's in full-time work, can more than afford this rent, simply refuses to pay because he knows he can get away with it, lives there for 6 months rent-free. And obviously Shelter don't have they don't have a word to say about that, obviously. But that was a form of mediation before you get into the court, and Shelter were trying to talk to me about mediating. And I'm like, what's to mediate? He's 6 months behind on his rent. He's in a job where he can afford it, and he's just telling me to piss off, basically. I couldn't see what there is to mediate. And also, I have to say, for transparency purposes, I've been in family court. Right? So when we talk about mediation in family court, what it means is you never get to see your kids again. And so maybe and that's what they call an equal mediation in family court, is the dad gets screwed over, never gets to see his kids again, and the woman gets half of all his stuff. And that's my experience. And so maybe that sways my perception on mediation somewhat, because it's like Putin. Let's go to mediation with Putin. Well, you've invaded Ukraine. No, I haven't. Donald Trump says I haven't. It was all Zelensky's fault. He forced me to do you know what I mean? He forced me into Ukraine. Right, we'll just give that property, that land back. No. Oh, and that's the end of that mediation. Do you know what I mean? I have my doubts about mediation, but I think I have a very strict boundary condition on what's right and what is wrong. Right? You love this. And what is right is basically what I say is right. And what is wrong is what everybody else says. It's worked for me so far.
Well, interesting point. Yeah, I suppose it's got to be both parties are willing to mediate, first of all.
I agree.
But in that, I mean, it's a very black and white case. The guy's in arrears, £5,000, bang. Well, there's no real argument about it at all.
There isn't. So why do you need mediation?
Well, if you look at it from your perspective, if you don't get something agreed at mediation, then you're going to wait another 9 months for it to go through court to get the guy out. He's probably not going to pay you any rent during that. You've got your solicitors and legal fees, another 3 or 4 grand. So you could potentially lose another 10 grand if you don't look at mediation.
I think what will happen is it will take 2 to 3 months to get a mediation date. The tenant turns up, says, oh, yeah, we'll do all that. Yeah. No, I'll leave in 3 months or another 2 months or another month, right? And it comes to that day and we'll go, fuck off. And then you still have to go to court. And you say, yeah, but it's solicitors and it's legally binding. So a bit of paper. It's got a bit of paper. It's called a contract. He's refused to move out. He's not paid his rent. He's damaging the place. And he's still not moved out. I just think it's a delaying tactic. But I am cynical in my old age. So maybe I'm too cynical. I mean, I would try it on the next tenant. I mean, we've got a room empty right now. And it is very difficult for a tenant to get into one of my properties now. Like anyone under 30, have you got a guarantor? Nah, sorry, mate. Oh, but I always pay my rent on time. That's what everybody says. I've got this really good job. Not fussed. I'm a police officer. Definitely not getting in then. Biggest shysters out there. Say that again.
Council worker.
Social worker. Bin men. Actually, I don't have anything against bin men. And if anyone who works for Leeds City Council, you might struggle to get into one of my properties, shall we just say. So when do you start the training on mediation?
6 weeks' time.
Okay. And how long is that training?
It's just 1 week, actually.
Oh, right. Okay. And if you need anyone to practice on, any awkward customers?
You would probably be my number one list of... No, I'm bloody right. That's it. Tell them to fuck off.
No, in mediation, I would just go, yeah, 100% agree with everything you say. And then when it comes to the point where the thing is supposed to happen, at that point, I just go the opposite way. Listen, I've been in family court. Happens all the time. So, but I think it's really interesting. And I do agree, by the way, if we can get those numbers up to 80, 90%, where actually there is an agreement made that is abided by both parties, I think that's wonderful. And you are right. It will save time on lost rent and hopefully repair the relationship to some extent. Even if it's, okay, look, I'll pay you 500 quid to move out. Even if it comes down to that, that's a lot cheaper than 9 months of non-paying tenants, because it's not just 9 months of non-paying tenants at 600 quid a month. It's, we had a tenant that moved out and it's in a ground floor flat where we paid for utilities because it's 2 flats in a house and they've not been split. And so she stayed there for 6 months and I'm paying her utilities. And in the end, she trashed the house that much. She moved into a caravan in the front drive with an extension cable out of the ground floor flat, electric heater, lights, all the rest of it. I'm paying for it. Couldn't evict her because she's got a legally binding contract. You have to go to court. It's crazy. Yeah. It's bonkers. So
it's weird though. It's like actually mediated and answered your own question. Would it be cheaper for you to pay someone 500 quid just to leave the house and go, rather than going through court? In which case,
we actually.
You've
I agree.
Got a mediation sorted just there and then.
I mean, we have actually done that in the past, and they still not moved out, and they didn't take the money, but they didn't move out, because that's the other thing is, okay, so let's say you go, okay, I'll pay you 1,000 quid if you move out tomorrow, and we go, okay, and then you meet them at the house, and I suppose you wait until they've handed the keys over, but. Before they get the money, but then you're like, okay, here's the money, here's the keys, trying. Do you know what I mean?
You want to moved out of the house as well and got all their stuff out of it. But yeah,
I suppose
it rankles. It really goes against the grain. You're paying somebody to go when they've screwed you over thousands of quid. But I love the saying: do you want to be right, or do you want to get what you want?
Oh, well, I want both.
This is a common one with the other half, with Michelle, actually. But I want to be right. Okay, but you're not going to get what you want, though. Well, I want that as well.
Why not? Like, do you know what? One of the things I really hate if you see it on social media. Do you want to be happy or do you want to be wealthy? And I'm like, well, I want both, motherfucker. Why can't I have both? Oh, no, you can't have both. What do you mean you can't have both? Of course you can have both. This idea that if you're poor, you're happy, and if you're wealthy, you're sad. Like, and there's that saying, I've been wealthy and poor, but I'd rather cry in a Ferrari than, cry in a tent because you're homeless. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You can wear much prettier dresses when you're sad if you're rich.
Exactly. Yeah. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does buy you a jet ski. It's kind of the same thing. Or experiences to move you off being depressed or sad or whatever that happens to be. So I think that will be interesting. And obviously you need to let us know how that goes with your mediation. And I think it would, is it like a classroom teaching?
Classroom thing, loads of role playing it, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Great. I can imagine how many times you're going to say, you say that, but my mate Dan is going to come up in that training.
Now, the thing is, I actually want to be good at this, though.
As examples of, yeah, but my mate Dan, he's a bit of a twat and he's not going to allow that to happen. I think that would be really interesting. Let's talk about property anyway. So property market right now, we mentioned Paul Champlain, number of Section 21's going up and eviction process taking forever. Obviously, we've got Rent Reform Act. You're in property yourself. What do you think the impact is going to be on that lot in the next, well, let's say 2025?
Well, we're seeing it already. I mean, because our letting agency, basically, a lot of the landlords now just want to get out and sell because of the changes with the renters reform stuff coming through and all the past stuff that basically the government seems to have been picking on landlords for. So a lot of our investors are just looking to sell up. And so at the moment, we're deal sourcing, deal packaging those things for other investors. But the thing is, the government's basically driving landlords out of the private rented sector, or their actions are.
Do you think they're aware that that's what they're doing?
I think from a politician's perspective, landlords are an easy target because generally people don't like them. And there's a hell of a lot more renters out there than there are landlords. So from a voting perspective, I think picking on landlords makes total sense.
Yeah.
And they've got to be in next term to be able to carry on being in power. But what they are actually doing is quite very short-term focused, because by picking on landlords, they're driving landlords out of the market. So there's going to be fewer rented properties. We've already got a housing crisis anyway. Supply and demand is just going to carry on pushing the rents up even higher.
But what some people would say, specifically on Twitter, people who hate landlords, they say, oh, so that house just disappears then, does it? And they go, no, a tenant will buy that house. And I'm like, if a tenant could have bought that house, there's plenty of houses. You can pick up a house for 35 grand if you go to Gainsborough, and people go, well, who wants to live in Gainsborough? That's another matter entirely. But you can do. It's there if you want to get on the housing. I want to live in Buckingham Palace. Why should I not live in? Well, I can't afford it. It's just, you have to beg, beggars can't be choosers. But they say, yeah, but that house then goes to a first-time buyer. That brings house prices down. And I'm like, well, how much have house prices dropped in the last 20 years? Like, I think they're probably at the highest ever. They might have dropped a couple of percent in the last couple of months, but they're at the highest ever. And rents are at the highest ever. And I always think the more they mess with it, the more they mess it up, really. And they need to leave it alone. And I get what Keir Starmer's saying right now. 1.5 million houses over the next political term, 4 or 5 years. That's a wonderful challenge. I think it's quite a difficult one to achieve, and I don't think they're going to achieve it. But, if they only do 1 million houses, brilliant. But we should have been building 200,000 houses for the last 25 years. I've known that for 25 years. Not in the next 5 years. It's still a massive shortfall. And I don't want to talk about immigration because I'm pro-immigration. I think immigration is positive, net positive for the UK as a whole. But you can't get away from the fact that there was a 750,000 net difference in immigration. And those people got to live somewhere. And that obviously has an impact. And so That was last year, by the way. So if your target is 1.5 million years over the next 4 years, and with 750,000 people coming every year, you still got a net loss of properties. And then, planning, Article 4 specifically, and for those that are listening, Article 4 is where you can't have a HMO property, a house of multiple occupation, or a house share in any Article 4 areas. So they all came in. So now people can't add more housing to young professionals' house sharing because they're not allowed. And it's like, well, that needs to be released because that's just crazy. We were going to do one on York Road in Leeds, and we were going to, it was a 4-bed house. We'd get a 5th bedroom out of it, and we were going to open that up and put homeless people in there and like a homeless shelter. We had this whole plan lined up for it. And we spoke to Leeds City Council. They just told us to piss off, basically. It's like, okay, we won't help the homeless then. Fair enough. That's what you want,
What did they tell you to piss off under? What was the problem?
It was Article 4, the property. And I said, we want to convert this. We want to get people off the streets, put them in for 6 months, and then move them through a house share into a single bed property, like a 1-bed flat. So there's a process of getting them off the street into shared housing with a social worker, someone to oversee it, either paid privately by us because there was enough money coming in, or through Leeds City Council because we're helping them get people. But they don't care about that. And why would they? If you've ever been to Leeds recently, it's a tsunami of homelessness. And as you say, all these rents are going up, houses coming off the market because they're being sold off the rental market. Like, what do you think is going to happen to homelessness in the next 2 years? It's yet another tsunami of homelessness. And we've already had several waves of homelessness. And do you know what happens? Oh, it's landlord's fault. And it's like, dickheads. We're the ones trying to fix this. But because they're so short-sighted and they hate landlords, I'll give you an example. I've got this idea about any landlord who's got an empty house because it's been trashed and they're like, I'm not going to bother doing it up, I'll just leave it empty. How about we give them an interest-free loan of 20 grand, and in return they have to rent it out to local housing authority for 5 years until the loan is paid back. It's interest-free, or maybe it's 10%. And I float an idea like that on Twitter. Oh, the amount of hate that landlords get. Well, why should we be paying for landlords? Yeah, but you're turning the hat. This is do you want to be right, or do you want to help, right? Why should we be paying landlords so that you're not paying anyone? You're getting a house back for 5 years and you're solving that single house problem. Try doing that with 275,000 empty homes there are in the UK right now. Do that, 275,000 homes. You've got all these houses back. No, we're not doing that. I spoke to a guy from Roundtree Foundation, and he was like, I was saying, the Section 24 tax, forcing landlords to sell, that tax needs to go. He said, no, it needs to be double. You need to tax them more. I'm like, but you're going to move even more landlords out? Now, think about this, right? Polly Nee, if she still works there, she earned £120,000 a year working for Shelter. How many people do you think Shelter have housed in the last 10 years? None, right? Because that's not their job. Their job is to abuse landlords and to force them out. And that's the effect that they think they're having on a positive effect on the landlord landscape. But actually what happens is they're keeping themselves in a full-time job because they're causing the problem, making the problem even worse than it was before they got involved. Demonizing landlords. So landlords go, screw this for game of soldiers. They move out. So I think they're purposefully doing it to keep themselves in 120 grand a year. Now, I don't know that. But I think Polly's quite a well-known feminist. And this is my opinion for legal reasons, I have to say that. But I think she's quite a feminist. And what Shelter say is that buy-to-let landlords are sexist because the number of single mums that get evicted, and so it's a sexist thing. And I'm like, no, you could flip that. So the number of landlords who are males, 70, 80%? So therefore Shelter's sexist because all they do is go up against landlords who are predominantly male. If you want to go down that path, So I just find it really interesting that they're there really to keep themselves in a job.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah, they are actually giving themselves more work to do. The policies are actually following. But yeah, the whole thing is just going to be worse for renters, even though I'm sure everyone's going to be cheering on, yeah, screw the landlords, screw the landlords.
Yeah.
You're a renter. You're biting the hand that houses you, basically.
Yeah.
Give
me, if you could think of 3 things to do tomorrow in the housing market that would solve it, give me a top 3. I know I've put you on the spot there, but I find it quite interesting.
Section 24 stuff, I just think is completely unfair. The fact that you can't actually use a legitimate expense as an expense. That's just, I just can't see the logic in that. No other business does that actually apply at all.
Yeah.
So that seems to be completely unfair. I think rent capping, trying to control the market, doesn't do any use at all. And I think the whole court thing is completely bogged down and not working for tenants or for landlords. So that's sort out the actual legal side of it. Again, everything is so on side of the tenants. And I totally agree that tenants need to be protected, but I think more for political reasons, it's actually gone too far now. And there's so much protection for the tenant. Everything is anti-landlord.
Yeah.
That's what's driving landlords out.
Yeah, I agree. What I find interesting, I speak to people on Twitter and they say stuff like, damp, loads of damp, landlord wouldn't fix it, and so we need the rent reform bill. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just speak to environmental health, they'll come round, we'll see the mould, and we'll go to the landlord, fix it. We'll give you 30 days to see that you're beginning work, and if not, we'll fix it for you, and we'll charge you for it. And the tenants are like, oh, really? So I don't think you need more legislation. I think you need better tenant education. And what you said before about the court systems not helping landlords or tenants, 100% agree, because that tenant should have the ability to take their landlord to court and force the landlord to do the works, or through environmental health to do those works. And that process is, again, it's going to be so slow, it just never happens. So the tenants don't do it. I do understand the tenant's point of view that they are then worried about a revenge eviction. And so there needs to be a bit of legislation, which I think there probably is actually about, that came in a few years ago about revenge evictions.
Really? No, is that such a thing? So imagine I've got a house, boiler goes, no, I'm not fixing the boiler.
Yeah.
And if the tenant keeps complaining, I'm going to kick the tenant out. And then what am I going to do?
A new tenant won't rent it because I've got no boiler. I agree. I do agree.
Yeah, if there's work to be done to the property, you might as well get it done straight away while the tenant's in there and everybody's happy.
Because we are in the job of having tenanted properties. People seem to think that we're desperate to kick tenants out and keep properties empty. I don't know anybody and I know a lot of landlords, right? Over the last 20 years, thousands, tens of thousands of landlords I've physically met, spoken to, and so on. Not a single one of those is desperate to keep a property empty.
No.
None of them. Like they want to keep tenants. It's like Tesco saying, no, we're not going to sell any baked beans. Like, that's the job.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense at all. Nobody wants an empty house.
Yeah.
And yeah, landlords can get into financial difficulty and they might not be able to afford repairs and that sort of thing. But that's a very different case. And you've got to look at different solutions for that. But otherwise, you want somebody renting your house off you. And yes, you need to do a little bit of maintenance and do that as soon as it comes up, straight away, keep a happy tenant. And you want that tenant for years. Every time it moves out, it's a pain in the arse and a cost for landlords.
Yeah, so we've got this room empty and we get tenants and we're going, I just want to move in for 3 months. And I'm like, well, no. I'm like, oh, that's not fair. It's like, so it costs me money to advertise, and it costs me money because I have to pay someone to do viewings and move-ins and inventories and photographs and all the rest of it because I'm not there. And then what, you're going to stay for 3 months and then I have another property empty for another month because I'm really tight on guarantors and tenant referencing. And then we get them, we had one in February. We're in February now. And they wanted to move in June. And I'm like, so how long are you leaving for? 6 months. So let me get this right. You want me to keep this empty for 4 months so you can move in for 6 months? Yeah, literally, yes, is what they said. I'm like, are you just some kind of special stupid? Like what planet do you think we're on that is ever going to... look, or we'll do a viewing and they'll go, yeah, I love it. I've just got 2 more to see later this week. Can you reserve it and hold it? I'm like, well, you have to put your money down. No, just hold it. Don't let anyone else. Yeah, we'll do that for you, mate. What planet are you on? After COVID, tenants have got more difficult. They've got more challenging. It's actually one of the reasons why we're moving out of the buy-to-let sector entirely, because it's. I mean, bear in mind, I've done this for 26, going on 27 years now. God, and I wasn't grey when I started this. I'm grey now. Some say that's just old age, Dan. But we're moving out because it's just everything we've spoken about in the first 30 minutes. In the first 30 minutes of this conversation is exactly why landlords are moving out. It is such an unattractive marketplace. And, you get these people, oh, good, we don't want you in there. And these are tenants saying this. And I'm like, your rents aren't going up, we're going down. Well, they're not. I just wanted to cover rent caps, because everyone talks about rent. Oh, we need rent caps. I don't think there's a single place where rent caps have actually worked. Let's take Scotland. There's a link that I often post out from Financial Times. It has literally not worked in Scotland because a tenant moves out, they put the rents up. Can't put rents up while they're in, but as soon as they move out, you put the rents up. And then I don't even understand how. So it's a 2-bed flat. It's a really big 2-bed flat versus another 2-bed flat in a shitty area, same size. What, you can only charge the same level of rent on a 2-bed flat? And who decides that? I don't know even how they're going to police it, quite frankly.
It's one of those ones, face value, but, that's a good idea. Stop rents shooting up so much.
Yeah.
But you actually start looking into it, and if you've got any understanding at all of the market, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these ideas the government comes up with. They think, on face value, that sounds great. And then they get into the implementation of it, it messes up. Look at home information packs. Great idea. Get conveyancing done so much quicker. And then what happens? They don't get the buy-in from the mortgage lenders to accept the valuations.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good idea.
And actually, you can understand the mortgage companies not wanting to do that, because we've seen valuations change week by week, especially in an up or a down market. And if you've done the valuation 3 months ago, and then you're basing the mortgage on that valuation, and then you get to pick your valuer as well, by the way, which is an old technique we used to use when we used to do the old Mortgage Express same day or next day refinance. We'd buy a house for 70, and then we'd get a conveyancer in to value it at 100, and we're like, oh, let's get someone else in, and the next one comes in, values it at 110. So guess which one we're going to use when we're going for the mortgage? The one at 110. Well, it's still the same house. Who decides how much a house is worth? So it's a bit bullshitty, really. So I can understand, especially after MX fiasco, which is 2007, when that all went wrong. I can understand mortgage companies not buying into it, really. But, we watch a $1 million listing on Amazon Prime, or the other one is Selling Sunset. It's all the blonde ladies in very short skirts and driving Ferraris in Los Angeles. And it's just hilarious because they go, 7-day completion. What? Sorry, 7 days. Oh, it might be a long one. 30-day completion. My last completion took 7 months to complete on a sale of a property. Yeah. And it's like, that's bonkers. The system is broken. And this is actually another aspect of what they need to do. And I do think Keir Starmer is talking about the system being broken, because it is. Why can we not have 30-day completions? Imagine the velocity, because this is the key, right? As a species, the faster we've got at stuff, the faster forward we've been able to move as a species. And just something as basic as housing transactions taking 7 to 9 months is just ridiculous. It's actually a reason why, this year we were going to buy, do up and sell. We were going to title split. And now we're like, not sure if we're actually going to do that. And in fact, we've gone heavily into the digital marketing side because it just takes too long.
Yeah, especially if you've got a property sitting there empty and you're not getting any money on it at all.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today, I went to, thanks for that, by the way, just on property. I do like talking about property, even though I get quite excited by it. Excited in not necessarily a great way, but excited as in, a bit giddy about it. I want to talk about Funnel Hacking Live because I got back from that on Tuesday eventually. The event finished on Saturday. I started traveling on the Sunday. I then got to Heathrow on the Monday, and then I got to Valencia Airport on the Tuesday. And I literally just almost got my jet lag fixed because I was there from the previous Sunday. And then as soon as I got my jet lag fixed, I flew back. And obviously my jet lag, and I'm just absolutely exhausted right now. But one of the things I've really missed, and COVID had a massive impact on this, was going to live events and live seminars. And it's so different. I've done virtual events. I did Unleash the Power within. I did it virtually, downstairs, lights down, LED lighting, flashing lights, pretending you're at the event. It's a bit weird, in all honesty, because I'm British, right? We don't do stuff like that. But you're jumping up and down, and woo, and it's just you in a basement. It's very weird. But you have to play full out, right? And you have to go, okay, this is something I've not done before. Let's try it. But I definitely miss going to live events. And Funnel Hacking Live, it was...
What did you think to the online event? Because I must admit, the live events I've really enjoyed, but sitting in front of the screen for 12 hours a day for 3 days, my God, I couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah, and also because our attention span is so bad, like just watching an episode for 30 minutes, how many times are you on your phone checking bullshit? Because we are completely rewired and screwed up in our heads, and our attention span is dreadful. So that took a lot of discipline, which is a skill and a muscle that we should practice on a regular basis, I believe. And those that, for other people, it's even worse because they don't practice any discipline at all. And so they're just at the whim of their brain and the dopamine firing off, or a dopamine requirement. But it was better than not going, and better than not having any of it. And even if I only got 50% of what I would have got if it had been there, I think it's worth doing. Luckily, I was able to go to Funnel Hacking Live in Vegas, but some people did dial in and get the virtual event. But just being there, I won't say I was particularly gregarious, outgoing, and meeting people. I wasn't at all, because we're British for a start, and we have to pretend, stiff upper lip and all that. I say, oh boy, it's 4 p.m. It's time for tea. We have to do that, don't we? And the number of people who came up and said, oh, I love your accent. And I'm like, dude, if I talk like this in England, they hate my accent, which is really cool. And obviously it's America, so you meet some really interesting people. I met a guy who looked like he was in ZZ Top with a long beard, and he was from the deep South. And he was like, I won't do the accent because it's embarrassing, right? But he was like, oh my gosh, there's more people here than there are in my town. And he just imagine a really deep South. Yeah. And he does 4 million a year, sat at his computer. Yeah. And he went from 0 to 4 million in like 3 years. And you're like, what the fuck? That amazing. And to meet people who sounded like he sounded, and you could say the same about me, right? Because I sound like this and look like this, and yet we'll still do all right. But he had nobody in his local town, really, 4,000 people or whatever. So just meeting people and being able to shake hands, that was really cool. Lots of standing on chairs. We had Tony Robbins who came out on the last day. Some world-class speakers who were people I've never seen before. And I'm blown away, because when you go to an event in the UK, bear in mind we're British and we're quite reserved relative to the US, I would say. And, I saw Grant Cardone over in the UK, and people were a little bit more woo kind of thing. But in America, it's just this whole new level. The number of whoops I heard, you could count whoops per minute. It was on the high hundreds, woo, yeah, amen. Got a lot of amens going on. A lot of a lot of hell yes and Jesus and God cropped up quite a bit, interestingly.
Basically you with an American audience mainly.
Basically, yeah. It was interesting though, and after a while it kind of got on my nerves. I'm like, just shut the fuck up and watch, will you? Please stop. Hell yeah. It was just really interesting. And then by day 4, I'm like, hell yeah. So I was acclimatized into it. And it was, it was brilliant. It was such a good experience. And you want to latch onto it and you want to bottle it up for as much as you can. And I made 4 pages of notes. I've got all my notes here. I just made pages of, of just a full booklet of notes. Absolutely. And I've not made notes like that in 20 years from an event. So the amount of learnings that we got from because there's different levels of learning, right? So you got like strategic, like what's the plan? Well, this is going to be the plan. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then this should happen, then we'll do this. So that's the strategic level. Then you got the tactical level. Yeah, but how do we do the Facebook Live? What's that going to be? And then you go into the technical level of the actual button pushing and that kind of actually physically doing it. And then above all of that, you've got the mindset level. And what happens is that when you're first starting out, the technical, the tactical, and the strategic levels are what you really focus on in order to get the thing moving. And then after you've got that thing moving, something else happens, which is this little voice inside your head that says, you're fucking useless. Who do you think you are? Thinking that you're going to do, who do you think you are? Do you not remember at school, when you got bullied or, like stupid thing, or that time when you dropped your dinner tray when you were 6? God, you're such an idiot. Do you know what I mean? Like crazy stuff from years ago. But you still, or arguments that you lost when you were 13. You're like, you're in the shower at 52, in the shower, and you're like, if I just said this to him, it's like, damn, that's 40 years ago.
Well, we can use this as a therapy session if you want.
So above all of those 3 levels, so you've got technical, tactical, strategic, you've got mindset. And it's this bit. If you can solve this bit, these other 3 things actually don't matter. Because it's like, this for me is Forrest Gump. This is what Forrest Gump was about. Forrest Gump didn't have technical, tactical, or strategic ways of doing anything. He just didn't know how to do stuff. He also didn't know he couldn't do stuff, right? And in his mind, he was like, I just started to run. And he ran. And he ran whatever he did from one end of the US to the other. I forget. He grew a long beard while he was doing it. And it's like, I call that the Forrest Gump effect, where you're too stupid to know something can't be done, so you just go do it anyway. And most of us, people listening and watching to this, they get in their own way, and all those things I talked about from being a young kid or not knowing how to do something, instead of just doing it, instead of just going live and making a mess, because no one's watching anyway on your first couple, and we've done over 1,000. Still nobody watches, right? They download the podcast and they watch the shorts, but generally they're not watching the live stream. So it doesn't matter if you mess it up, but the number of people that cannot get out of their own way, that have got something inside them that really needs to be shared, that can change the world, and they don't do it because they dropped the dinner tray when they were 13, or they had an argument, or when they were 6, and they had an argument when they were 13, and an uncle called them stupid or clumsy or whatever, So I just found that very interesting, and that was a reminder for the mindset stuff. There was quite a few speakers who, again, mentioned God quite a bit. And I have to laugh because they don't go, it's a mission from God. They don't say it's a mission from God like that. They go, it's a mission from God like that. 2 very different ways of saying the same thing. Like, I'm on a mission from God. And you're like, yeah. Whereas if you said, you're on a mission from God, you go, yep. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Thanks for that. But again, it is American, and obviously, I would say they're more pro-religion than the UK. And I'm an atheist anyway, so I'm like, I don't know what you talk. So I just translate the word God for universe, or if you can change it to source, and I can get the understandings that I needed to. But so this is the point, right? There's lots of points, but this is the main one, is that one of the biggest things I've missed is going to physical live events and being refueled up. Because in my mind, I think this is a Ferrari, right? Might not look it, but under the hood, it's a Ferrari. And when you drive a Ferrari, you got to put the best fuel in. And I haven't been putting in the best fuel. I've been trying, but doing it virtually is not the same as doing it live.
Yeah.
So doing this one now, brilliant. I've got a Billionaire Bootcamp in Bali in November, which is amazing. So that's 2. I'm like, actually, I need 1 a quarter. So there's UPW, which is Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within in Germany. I might do that, I might not. That's in September. And then we've got Millionaire Mind Intensive in Spain, as it happens, in March or April, which I have actually booked in for. It was only £9. I'm like, for 2 hotel nights, for £50, I'll go do that, and get that top up. That's the point. I've got the technical, I've got the tactical, got the strategy. What I need to be refueled, and I think everybody needs this, is the mindset and the reaffirmation that you can do this. You are capable of this. You have the skills, and that confidence from knowing that you are capable, and then you just go do it anyway, will get you better results. And in fact, this week, what are we on today? We're on Friday, right? So this week, like we've had, 7 strategy calls. We closed 3 of them. And the amount of implementation we've done this week, despite, I only got back on Tuesday and then I was exhausted anyway, has been significant. And it's like, gosh, imagine being this efficient every single week.
Have you actually changed anything yet from what you've done? Or has this just been you approached it with this different mindset so far? Because trying to close those clients that you closed this week, fantastic. But you're probably trying to do that a couple of weeks beforehand as well, using the same techniques, same strategies.
Yes. So I'll tell you where the clients came from. We're running Facebook ads to 3 training courses, 4 training courses right now. I'll tell you what the training courses are. Property sourcing training, rapid course creation, which shows people how to very quickly make an online training course and start making money in 2 weeks. We got one called One Funnel Away. Like, if you think about this, let's say you run a coaching business for weight loss for men over 50. Brilliant example. So if you had one funnel that worked and got people into a £2,000 a year program, and you could make that one single piece of content into a paid ad, and it continually drove people into the sales funnel, and you were able to close people, and you closed 4 clients a month for an annual event, that's 48 clients a year that you're enrolling at $2,000 each. That's what it's 96 grand. That's life changing for many people. So we created a training called One Offer Away. And our One Offer Away is based on the One Offer Away, right? So it's a £17 product. People buy that. They go into our funnel. They get into a strategy session, which is with me. And then we diagnose what do they need, what do they want, how can we help, if at all, because sometimes we can't. And if it's a good match, then we present them with an offer, and they'll either sign up with the offer or they won't sign up with the offer. So before I went to Funnel Hacking Live, we just launched the paid ad for that one offer away program. We sold, I don't know how many we sold, but we sold enough. And because out of that, we developed 7 strategy sessions. We've closed 3 already, and the other 4, 1 or 2 are just not suitable because their product isn't a good match. And the other 2 will probably come back in a week or 2 once they find the finances to do it, or speak to the wife, or all the other reasons why people don't, sign up there and then. And we don't do hard sales because I hate hard sales. We like to keep our refund levels as low as we can. And if you hard sell, your refund levels are higher. And then the final one, what's the final one? Oh, content creation machine, which I think is 57 quid. And that just shows people how to create a lot of content, which you need because we should all have personal brands right now. Excuse me. So in terms of what we've implemented, some of it is the confidence to understand that everything we know, we're actually on the right path. We actually have all the pieces of the puzzle to grow our business massively in 2025. So why aren't we? Would be the question. And we're doing okay. We're closing business and we're bringing on clients and we're getting results for those clients. So that's good. But we can play a much higher game, and we can do that by ramping up that marketing. And some of it is like the one offer away. You might have this sales funnel, but it just doesn't work. So, well, which bit of it doesn't work? Might be the advert, might be the landing page, might be the offer. Which bit isn't working? And that's the bit that people should be working on. So that if you're not driving enough traffic to your offer, you're never going to close anybody. Yeah. If you are driving traffic to your offer, but we're not taking the next step, that landing page needs sorting out. If you're driving people to a strategy session, but you're not closing them on the strategy session, your sales technique needs sorting out. So anybody has the capability of doing this, regardless of what business they're in. Even if you sell knitting patterns, right? You're one offer away from selling 20,000 knitting patterns this year. What is that? What would it look like? What would be the amazing amount of value? So like in our £27 property sourcing product, like there's a lot more than £27 worth of value in that product. That's why we sell so many. I would say there's about 500 quid's worth of value in that product. And, but maybe that's me being more optimistic than normal. But even if it's 10x, £270, that's still a lot of value for a £27 product. Yeah. So I think that's the missing piece for a lot of people. And like the reassurance for me, you know, we are literally within the environment where the top marketers on the planet, this is the event, right? There's another one called traffic and conversion, but this is the event that everybody goes to. And the number of people that didn't, you know, stand up if you got a podcast, and like less than 10%, it's 5,000 people there. I would say it's closer to 5% people stood up. And then they were like, okay, stay standing if you live streamed in the last 24 hours. And almost everybody sat down, and me and a few other people stood up. And I'm like, that is crazy. You know, we talk about personal branding and so on. And so I'm like, boy, we are actually doing everything right. We just need to do more of it. More paid ads, better funnels. Like I was looking at one of our funnels earlier today, and we've got some changes that I want to make on that funnel to do with the copy in the advert. So we have or are implementing some of those changes. Hook, story, offer is one of them, which we kind of know, but kind of didn't really implement enough. So, you know, a hook is lose £12 in 12 weeks. Like, that's a great hook. For those people who want to lose £12 in 12 weeks, that is a scroll stopper, for example. So on some of our products, we need to just go back in and redo some of the hooks with a story and then present the offer. And that's just to get them from the advert onto the landing page. That's not the landing page. That's just to get off the advert onto to get the click. So, I mean, over 4.5 days, and I've only been back 4.5 days, really. There's so much to implement. 3.5 days I've been back. So much to implement. It's impossible to do it. So one of the things is to work out all the top things that we need to do, allocate the time to actually implement those. And then all the other things that also should be done, we need to allocate time in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks in order to get those done as well.
Yeah, and prioritise them all. So that's the thing. Yeah. So your conversions have already increased, but you probably haven't actually implemented any of the tactic type stuff.
Yeah, we have implemented some of them. So if I scroll through my Facebook feed, so I'll give you an example. 5 hours ago, client results went out. So at the end of each month, we got all our clients, and Graham, who's in charge of our delivery team of all the digital content, Facebook ads, and so on, all the landing. He deals with all that. He produces an end of month report, so all our clients get to see how many clicks, they already know how many sales, but how many clicks, where's the traffic coming from, what's the best time to post, how does that compare with the previous month or the previous year? So they get a full report, very, very detailed. And for some reason, I think due to time constraints, I never really displayed that for other people to see. So 5 hours ago, record-breaking client update, best results in 2 years, website traffic hits an all-time high, top traffic sources are social media and Google search, YouTube views and watch time hit their highest levels in 2 years, with audiences spending more time than ever engaging with video content. Engaging social media posts are consistently driving strong interactions. Previous videos, we've reworked and re-edited some of those older videos while we're waiting for more content to come from the client, but we've put those out. So almost like we're not having to wait for the client, because we're quite a forward-thinking organization. So it's like, okay, should we just create some shit for them? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So we get their old videos, we create some more stuff based on their old stuff that we can put out. So they're constantly staying in front of people. So this is one of the changes, is we need to actually display and demonstrate our expertise in actual results for actual clients. So like that's one. Like, so we got 4 or 5 clients that we've created that for so far, and then we've scheduled that one a week for the next 5 weeks. And then at the end of February, we'll have some more, and eventually we'll catch up because we've got plenty of clients that we have to do it for. But that's a demonstration of it going out, really. And we need to do more of that. And then another one, which is just, it's text, but it's actually not text. It says text on it, but behind in the background is a moving video. And so one of the reasons why it's a moving video in the background instead of a still image is that we can then upload it to TikTok and YouTube as well. Whereas if it's just a static image, you can only upload to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and what's the other big one? Instagram, yeah. But because it's a moving video, we can also extend the reach by a further 2 platforms, because it's now a video with a little bit of music behind it. And like this one says, don't overcomplicate marketing, keep it simple, read caption. So then people will see it on the caption. This came from a conversation I had with in a strategy session, which was about their videos aren't very good and they were worried about them. And I said, no, don't worry about it. The polished article is your landing page, and your video is embedded on your landing page. So we can put in the landing page, I shot this video very quickly, apologize for the quality, and the quality is then in the landing page. So it deletes the poor quality of the video because you've actually presuppositioned it as to why it's poor quality, because you did it in a rush and the lighting was bad, but you had an urgent message that you just had to get out. So that's why the quality of the video is not great. But the landing page is very, very good, and that will then convert. So just sharing that knowledge more, like there was a line, and I can't remember who said it. I think it was a guy called Garrett White, who's a bit weird, an interesting speaker. And I'll tell you about him in a minute, actually. But he said, don't let your knowledge stay your knowledge. And that kind of like such a simple sentence, but it carries so much weight. And don't let your knowledge stay your knowledge. And I'm like, because I think there's this assumption that everybody else knows what you know.
Yeah.
And then that going to Funnel Hacking Live reinforced that actually, I would say, I mean, the guys at the front, they're doing millions of pounds a year, but I would say at least 60% probably don't have the same amount of tactical, strategic knowledge that I have. But also they might be doing better than me financially as well, because the mindset stuff is stronger than my mindset. They're just doing it anyway, regardless of whether they think it's good or bad or indifferent. So let's just talk about Garrett White for a second. There's another guy called Andy Elliott, who's a sales trainer, and he comes on in his shorts that are too tight and his t-shirt that's too tight and his big muscles. And he's a sales trainer, right? So he goes up against Grant Cardone, who's also a sales trainer, really. Interestingly, they both come from a used car background. And him and Garrett White comes on and everyone's cheering. And he goes like that. And my first impression is, what a cock. Oh, what are you doing that for? Yeah, I'm too cool. I'm like, oh. And then he goes on and he speaks in very sharp consonants like this. And if you can't do this, then you suck. Like, he didn't say it like that, but that's basically what he was saying. And Andy Elliott is the same delivery model, right? Like, everything's a war, everything's a battle, and you've got to be super fit. And I actually agree with all that, right? I think if you get into a fight, you should be able to handle yourself. If you need to run a mile to save someone's life, you should be able to do that, climb a rope, all that. I believe that, right? but the delivery was just really harsh and as though we're going into battle. And I'm like, dude, you sell secondhand cars. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I do get it. But then the women absolutely killed it. So there's one lady whose name escapes me, and she did 3 tours in Afghanistan. She had really bad stuff happen to her when she was young, and she's proper badass. She's 53, looks amazing, and absolutely as badass as she was, she didn't need to prove it with this kind of going to battle kind of, even though that is actually her background, because she's done 3 tours of Afghanistan. And it was just really interesting, the differentiation between how some of the men, I should say, show up with this, not Andrew Tate, but kind of this Andrew Tate, attitude. They walk in like Billy Big Balls, whereas like some of the other women, there's a lady called Eileen Wilder who was just amazing, absolutely stupendously amazing. And then there's another lady whose name escapes me, who was just hilarious and doing so well. And then another lady was talking about using props in your conversations and all of that kind of thing. Very, very good. And the women absolutely killed it. How do we get onto that, by the way? What we're talking about?
Sounds like a normal conversation of ours, yeah.
Yeah, it does actually. But going to that live event, reinforced that actually I just need to go to more live events. And I'll give you an example. I was in a lift. I was on floor 55 and I had my name badge on. And I'm going from floor 55 to floor 0, which goes really quick, right? Because it's like floor 40 and upwards to floor 60 is that lift only, Right. And on the way down, on the floor below mine, someone got in and is like, oh, what's your event that you're going to? I'm like, oh, it's a marketing event, Funnel Hacking Live. So, oh, no, Funnel Hacking Live, Tony Robbins and Russell Bunn. Oh, yeah, I know them. So what do you do? Oh, well, actually, we run a digital marketing agency over in the UK. We have clients in Australia and the US as well, which we do. And then he's like, oh, we need some help with our marketing. So this is elevator pitch 101. So it's like, well, why don't we have a chat then? So I've got him lined up for a phone call next week to talk about his US and UK operation in marketing. And you're like, every business conference you've ever gone on and they go, oh, you need an elevator pitch.
Yep.
And so we used our elevator pitch and we got a lead from an elevator pitch. That one lead probably, if it drops, would pay for the entire event. And then other people, because one of the questions is how many people run Facebook ads? And again, 75% of the room did not stand up.
You're kidding.
And I'm like, how can you be running funnels without Facebook ads? Now, maybe they pay somebody else to run Facebook ads. But again, we met people who were not running Facebook ads and we're like, well, that's what we do. And we're like, have you got case studies and that kind of, yeah, of course we have. Oh, well, can we speak? So we're speaking to those guys next week as well. And so I forget, because I live over in Spain. I'm 1,000 miles away from anybody who deals with business or anything else. My life revolves around this little box that we're in, speaking about, virtual stuff, right? And actually, I forget how good I am in front of people, making people laugh, telling jokes, being gregarious in their presence and outgoing and what's the word? Interested in what they do. And so I kind of like realization that I actually need to be around more people, more English people, so that I can also close more business as well and just interact with more people.
That's the thing. Do you find as though you've got into a little bit of a social isolation bubble?
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite difficult because there's some English people here, and so you go for coffee or a cheesecake, but that's it. It's not like I miss networking events and I miss going to speak to people. Sometimes I think I don't like people, which is true to some extent. And then other times I really miss meeting new people and I miss people as well. Yeah. And then I revert back to not liking people again or liking people from a distance. But then I think that's because we've been here 12 years and actually I'm a product of that environment now where I only speak to people at a distance. And then actually, when I do get to meet them, really enjoy it again. And so probably do need to do a bit more of that, I think.
It's funny because I've been going down the same as well, just like working from home constantly. And I very rarely get to physically meet anybody else. So one of the things why I wanted to get the mediating is I just think it'll be actually really interesting just going out there and talking to real people again.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting when you get talking to people, regardless of what your business is, you can find a way to insert what you do, potentially, with whatever they're going through. So like mediation, for example, you know, if you go to a property networking event and you're like, so what do you do? Such and such. Oh, how long have you done that for? Oh, 10 years. Ever had any dodgy tenants? Got one right now, actually. Oh, okay. Like, how easy is that just to get in and go, oh, well, funny, that's what we do. Like, we can help you. Yeah. But you can only do that by bumping into people.
You've got to be talking.
I've given business cards out, literally filling the petrol pump, and you get speaking to the other guy. You know, like I can be gregarious and outgoing like that, and not in a weird way. I can do that too, I'm sure. Yeah. But just getting out there and bumping into people and having chat. You know, I remember sitting in the Queen's Hotel at a little coffee shop bit at the front there, and then a woman sat opposite, just to the left, and you get chatting, and she's like the regional manager for the company that owns Equate, and like that's just so amazing getting into that conversation and having the ability to do that. I think that's a skill, and I think it's a skill that people should learn because business is everywhere, or not just business, opportunity for whatever it is that you're after is everywhere. And if it is business, brilliant. If it's making new friends, brilliant as well. So I think that being so isolated can really work against us, and we become comfortable in our isolation, almost hermit-like. Like we got an event on Saturday to go to. It's someone's birthday. And I'm like, how long do we have to stay for?
You just
know what I mean?
Of people like meeting people.
Yeah, I know. And actually, I'll get there and I'll love it. But before, I'm like, because I'm so used to this, and our dog's asleep on the sofa. You know, we've just been out for a walk before we came live, and I can have lunch when I want, and I don't have to. You know, it's so much easier. But I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps mentally. I don't think it helps from a mental well-being point of view. It's like, do you go out with your mates or just watch Netflix? Oh, I just watch Netflix. You know, and maybe it's an age thing because you get to 9 o'clock and it's time for bed.
God, we're getting old, aren't we?
We are, absolutely.
But that's the thing. I don't know. Are we old as in we still actually want to talk to people and meet people? Is that a dying thing now? Kids who are coming through now, I don't know. I've got this thing where, I always want to phone people up and talk to them. I hate texting and all that sort of stuff. But is that actually a dying art now? Am I going the wrong way if I want to be working with 20-year-olds? Yeah.
Like, I don't even think the type normal anymore. It's all shortened abbreviations. Although, what's it called where it suggests the words for you, not adaptive texting.
Predictive
texting, yeah. I think that probably helps. I don't even know, when you're texting someone, are you even texting them, or have they just used ChatGPT to reply?
It's going to happen even more and more now.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like on WhatsApp, often I'll press the dictation button. And if you ever get a long paragraph from me, it's usually with words that are completely wrong in it. It's because I've dictated it and it struggles with my accent. Because I just find that easier than having a text. And I would much rather talk to the computer and get that to talk to you than actually have a conversation sometimes, like via text. But you are right. There's nothing like actually having a conversation.
That's the thing. One of the guys that works for me, you phone him up and just how he says hello knows where you're going to go in the conversation. Is he in a good mood? Is something gone wrong? Just by hello. And, automatically, oh, Christ, we've got a problem. Or, oh, no, everything's great. You can't get that emotion and meaning over on text at all.
No, but you know what's the worst people? The people who send you voice notes. And then you have to, like, the whole point of WhatsApp is I can just read your text. I don't have to reply or anything. And there's an even worse kind of person, and they send voice notes into the group where the whole group has to listen to the voice note.
It is, yeah.
As though what they have to say is more important than the 50 people in that WhatsApp group. 4 minutes of messaging, 50 people in a group, 200 minutes. I can't abide by that. Like we had a guy not turn up for a strategy session yesterday, and I needed to go somewhere, and I stayed in so I could do the strategy session, and he never showed up. Like, you only get one chance with me with that on a strategy session.
But that's the thing, like social etiquette now.
Yeah.
I must admit, I still struggle with WhatsApp being used as a business tool. Because it's that constant interruption of it. But yeah, who says we should just use email or we should just use WhatsApp or
society? And it changes, and it based also on your age as well, I think. And also people like, I was talking to some young guys at the event, and they're like, "Oh, what's your Snapchat?" I'm like, "Fuck off." We don't Snapchat. Not 18, I'm not 6. It's probably better. Snapchat. What are you talking about?
Communication generally, I feel, this is me saying as I'm getting old. I think it's just really going downhill with everybody.
I agree, but from a business marketing point of view, there's a message in there, and the message is that you have to reach your target audience with the medium that they prefer. Okay. So, like, we went onto TikTok kicking and screaming, in all honesty, and I'm not doing any of the dances, not doing any of that jibber jabber. Where I just upload, we'll do the shorts off a long form video, and we'll upload those. And then we do get replies, and we get leads from TikTok, but that's because we've met them where they are. And then, everyone has a preferred medium. What's yours? Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? Which one is it? WhatsApp?
My preferred is email and phone. Email.
So email marketing, for example, which seems to have died a death, is definitely on the comeback. And quite rightly, like, we've got an open rate, I think it's about 27% at the moment, which is double industry. Most people are getting 12 to 15%, I'd say. And we do all this social media content. So in a group of 1,200, we have 22 people see a post, which is like less than 2%. It's less than 0.2%, actually, is it? No, about 2%. Or if I send an email out to 1,200 people, 275 will see that?
Yeah.
20 people will click through, 4 people will take action. Or, so there has to be, you have to meet people where they are. And then also you need to work out what is their preferred method of communication and communicate to them that way. For some people, it's WhatsApp. For some people, it's Snapchat. For some people, it's TikTok or Instagram. People at CrossFit, I'm like, "Oh, shall I WhatsApp you?" I'm like, "No, I never check it." Sorry, what? TikToks. Message me on TikTok. It's the only thing I check. One is a specific. Why have you even got WhatsApp? Well, just in case. But you don't look at it for 6 months. Yeah, well, just in case. It's bonkers. I've sent a friend of ours, Charlotte. She left. She went back over to Bristol, and she left in September. Right. I sent her a WhatsApp last month. She's still not seen it. If I send it on TikTok, she'll see it. So it's like you have to meet people where they expect to be. And if most people, like, my preferred mechanism is Facebook, right? And so I'm on Facebook all the time. But if my ideal client is on LinkedIn and I'm not closing business on Facebook, I need to go to LinkedIn, obviously.
It's going back to NLP, isn't it? And mirror matching. Mirror the way they actually want to communicate, I suppose.
Yeah. And that can be challenging for people who are older and stuck in their ways, Dave.
Absolutely.
That could be really challenging. The other thing I wanted to talk about in today's session was brand building, actually. I find this really interesting. So obviously we're building a brand. And when I got to the airport, I was going through security at Valencia Airport. And I've been thinking about brand all week, obviously, because I got back from Funnel Hacking Live. And anyway, I'm wearing a Under Armour hoodie, as you can see. And I was looking at what everybody else was wearing. And I've known about this for quite some time, and I've never done anything about it. And I then saw a conversation a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, and this guy owns his own brand, and he showed up to somebody else's place who's got millions of followers. And when he showed up, he's like, why are you not wearing your own brand? And he's wearing like Nike or something, right?
Yeah.
Instead of his own personalized brand. And it's like, oh, it just didn't occur to me. It's like, dude, you should be living and sleeping in your own brand. And then I saw Grant Cardone a couple of months, or maybe a couple of years ago, and he wears his Who's Got My Money, Cashflow, billionaire in the making, or whatever it is, And he, 10x everything, 10x hat. Why do we wear Nike? Why am I wearing Under Armour? Why am I pushing somebody else's advert on my chest, for God's sake? Just makes no sense. So I was at the airport and I was watching all these people coming through, and I was looking at them. It must have looked a bit weird looking at people, and I was just looking at what people were wearing, and I was looking at how good or not it looked on them. And then I was looking at the colours, and it was all the same stuff. A lot of dark colours, a lot of black hoodies, black jackets, grey, stuff that had been worn for years and hadn't been refreshed. And I'm like, branding, you are literally your own walking brand. This right now, what we're doing is branding, and you go outside, you go to the shops, you go to the supermarket, and you're wearing Nike or whatever it happens to be. I don't know. What are you wearing? I can't see it. It's upside down. What are you wearing? What's on your jersey?
Patagonia.
Patagonia, right? And you choose that brand because it aligns to your brand values, which is adventure and hiking and snowy stuff and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And I wear this brand because I'm a sporty person. I'm into sport and I sport, And people wear brands that they align to. Like I went into a Nike shop and I'm like, gosh, what a load of shit is this? I'd never wear Nike except for the trainers. I got a pair of Nike Metcons. And then I went to the Under Armour shop because it was like 15 quid a t-shirt. So I bought a whole bunch of t-shirts because that's what I work out in when I go do CrossFit. And I'm like, why have I not got my own brand? Why am I not walking around with my own hoodie that says whatever message it needs to say? And why am I not wearing my own workout shorts with my own brand on them? And then I was looking at Under Armour and I was looking at their clothing. And it's basically shorts with the word Under Armour on it. And the quality of their stuff is not any better than stuff you can get off Alibaba or Temu or whatever, or from the shops where you can brand your own stuff. They have sports ranges, and I've got my bag. It says Under Armour. Why does my bag not say build a better business or lead?
I've busted out all the whole big logo stuff on t-shirts and that sort of thing, and all your Yves Saint Laurent. It always got me. Hang on a second, shouldn't they be paying you to do their marketing and be their advertising? Don't make sense at all.
It really doesn't. And so one of the things that I have been doing this week is designing badly my own hoodie. And it says, not a twat. Definitely not a twat. Yeah. And on the back it says, probably. But it's like, why we, when you go to a networking event, right? And, networking events, I have this conversation about business cards. So my business card, as you can see, it's got my face on it. These are amazing business cards. I've never come across anybody who's got a better business card. I've spoken on stage in front of thousands of people, and I've offered three coaching sessions if you've got a better business card. Not a single person has ever won one, right? So it's good, and I know it's good. So this business card, it's got my face on it, and people go, oh, no, I don't want my face on it. And it's like, but that is what you look like. So if I'm thinking about you, in my head is a picture of you. Whether you like it or not, That's what I'm thinking of. So if I get a business card, I'm going, who was this guy? Dave Price. Who's this guy? Oh, I think I remember him. Instead of going, oh, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
Why are people not branding themselves better? I mean, I'm also, a hypocrite because I'm not branding myself. And I think you can go too far to some extent. You can be a bit more subtle. You can have a little logo.
Yeah. You'd also know whose gear it was when you found it on the gym floor as well.
You could even put your face on it, right? Could you imagine? Like that pointing up at you. How funny would that be? But this is why I like these conversations, because it's like, what? Like, don't get me wrong. I think you can go too far. But what you said, surely they should be paying you to have their brand and advertise their brand. And, you think about Yves Saint Laurent. Is it Yves Saint Laurent? Was that the example you used?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about, that's YSL, isn't it? Yeah.
You're good at this.
So I'm brilliant. Yeah. And if you think about their brand and the values that they've associated with that brand, like how much does it cost them to make that? A better bag is a Birkin bag, right? 35 grand for a bag.
Right.
35 grand, right? I find it obscene. And I know this because we watch Housewives of Beverly Hills, really trashy TV. Such awful people, toxic, very, very toxic people. It's brilliant. Love it. So their 35 grand Birkin bag, I don't know how much it costs to make a Birkin bag. Let's say $100.
Yeah.
It's not much more than that. It's not $5,000. I'm sure they use the best ingredients in the world, best quality. But you're still selling it for 35. And it's like, well, why are people buying that stuff? And it's to do with brand values. And I think some of this, so Andy Elliott, when he came out, he had Team Elliott on his chest. And then Garrett White has Spirit Warrior on his, or it says Warrior actually on his. They all have merchandise that you can buy. It's got their name on it and that kind of thing. And they come out wearing it. And it makes total sense. Why are you pushing other people's brand? We spend all this time live streaming, creating content, turning it into podcasts, doing video shorts, lots, and then when you actually go to a networking event, people don't know who you are until they meet you. And I think that has to change. If you want to get more clients, a couple of things have happened to me where I've gone to networking events in Leeds, and you can see people and they're just looking at you like you can see the recognition, and then they come up to you and they go, Are you Dan Latto? And I think, oh shit, what have I done? Oh no, I was just drunk. I'm so sorry, And then they're like, oh no, I listened to your podcast or see your video. So I watched. We had one guy and he says, I've watched every single one of your videos. I'm like, stalker alert, and became a customer, and being able to walk in a room. So it's on two levels. Is this first up? You walk in a room, people already know who you are. That's very powerful. But if you've ever met anybody famous and you didn't realize they're famous until they told you, like, oh, it's you. Sorry. Right. And that's the second level. Whereas if you got a bit of branding on, Dan Latto, don't have to be massive, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Or if in your videos you're wearing the same style and it's got your name on it somewhere, when you go to a networking event, it says Dan Latto, ask me how to generate 5 more leads this week. Brilliant. Nice little, there's a hook and a call to action all in the same sentence there. Like, oh, I've seen that guy. They'll come up to you. So I think we have to step our game up at networking events, live streaming, podcasting, short-term videos, long-form videos. You should be running paid ads to your training courses. Almost every image of mine that goes out on social media has got my face on it. Almost every image, right? And we do that because I want people to come up to me who go, I know who you are. I follow your stuff, or I think you're a bit of a twat, or whatever, right? Because I'd rather them know they don't like me before they even come and speak to me, because then they're not wasting my time. But in terms of personal branding,
Nice.
Yeah, exactly, right? You're either going to love me or hate me. And if you hate me, brilliant, let me know so I'd never have to waste my time on you, you know? And if you love me, let's have a coffee and let's see if we can help you in some way. Brilliant. I love polarizing people.
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm not sure about having a Dan Latto t-shirt on, though. You are bordering on naff straight away, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe.
Like your mum couldn't say your name in the back of it, so she put it on the front.
But if somebody, why is it back to front though? So that when I go to the mirror, I remember how awesome I am. Like ambulance.
Oh, yeah.
You could actually have "not a twat" written in reverse, and only you would know what it means. Because nobody else would be. Because actually, would you be able to work that out? Tortaton. Because it actually does read as a word. And it's only when you go to the mirror to wash your hands does it say "not twat."
Hang on.
Is that right?
I was just going to think, does that come across as a mirrored image to you now? Can you read that?
It says "a ton taught."
Not a twat, it says.
Yeah, that's because you're going from one side to the other. And it's because you put another line.
No, I just wrote not a twat.
Yeah, but it's reversed. It's mirrored.
Yeah, which is what you were saying.
Oh, no, it says "a ton twat." Because it's going opposite, because it's mirrored the camera.
Yeah,
anyway,
so you need the mirror image version of that on your t-shirt.
Yeah. That is a great brand name. Tortaton. Honestly, what a wonderful brand name that is. You could have so much fun with that. You could give it to people for Christmas. And they wouldn't notice. And then you go, they'll just put it on, go check yourself in the mirror. And then go, "Not I've just discovered the best Christmas present for you." I'm gonna. It's worth spending 20 quid for you, Dave. What size are you? I'll get you that. Get it printed.
Oh, Dan Latto's not a twat t-shirts.
Oh. But like you could have a logo, and it could have, Garrett White has warrior, because his thing is about being a warrior, and better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war kind of thing, which I get. But that whole purpose branding thing, I think people just got to really step up. And I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, and he wanted a website, and the conversation was about he's got a website, or he wants a website, but he doesn't know much about social media, and he hasn't got an Instagram account, and he wants to close business. And I'm like, well, why do you want a website? People don't know who you are. And he's like, well, I want to build credibility. And I'm like, but dude, you don't have any credibility. You're not on Instagram. How many friends you got on Facebook? 100. You have zero credibility. And, it took a little bit of offense to it, and I'm all right with that, because I'm here to serve, whether they like it or not. Here to help. And sometimes you've got to say things that they're kind of, but it's like, where's your brand? Well, I want people to build trust. Who? Nobody knows you exist. And so we call it KLT. KELTAC is what I call it. So KLT is know, like, and trust. If people don't know who you are, they're not buying from you. They don't know who you are. If they don't like you, they're not buying from you. If they don't trust you, they're not buying from you. And then the AC, KELTAC, is the authenticity. You've got to be yourself. And the C is consistency. Oh, it could be credibility, but it's consistency. So KELTAC, you've got to know, like, and trust. Got to be authentic. You've got to be consistent. And most people are none of those things. They don't live stream. They don't do any outreach. How do you close? I'm amazed that people close business. How do you close business then? How do you think most people close business?
It's an interesting one, because when you say you've got no credibility, you're actually talking very specifically about their online presence. There's no credible online presence.
I agree, but I would say that if you aren't online, you're offline, right? And how many people know you offline?
Yeah, then it's going to be very, very few.
Or let me ask a different way, because over the years, more people know you. but they've forgotten about you. So how many times is anybody listening to what you've got to say other than one-on-one, which is not scalable? So in a live stream we did 2 weeks ago, we had like 1,000 people on a live stream. How long would it take me to go speak to 1,000 people? At least 1,000 minutes.
Jesus,
I don't know how many hours that is. That's a lot. Is that 24 hours? That's more than that, isn't it? That's about right. I can't do the maths.
1,000 people. Well, yeah, you're not going to be able to do it. You haven't got the same scalability at all.
And I'm not saying that every online interaction is an in-depth conversation, because it's not. Because obviously it's not, right? But it is the precursor to the to the in-depth interaction. So you meet people online, we do a strategy call, and then you might agree to meet for coffee. Brilliant. At least you've qualified that person in or out, and they've qualified you in or out. So one of our strategy sessions, we ran out of time because we're back to back on them. And I said, I want to continue this conversation. He said, yeah, I do too. So we booked in for Monday, and we got a really good opportunity to help this guy. Like, this guy makes 2 or 3 grand per client. Okay. And for like £1,000 a month, I reckon we can easily serve him about 8 clients a month, which for him is game changing. That's, that is a game. It's going to go from 1 or 2 clients a month to maybe 6 to 8 clients a week. Like, he probably can't even handle that many. But that is a game changing thing. But that all comes from, he actually came from an advert for our rapid course creation, bought the product, then booked a strategy call, and then there's potential upsells. He might buy from us this month, he might not. It might be in a few months, who knows? But all that comes from having an online presence. Without that online presence, that would not have cropped up. And he's not in Leeds. I don't know where he is. So that's why you have to have this branded online presence. And when you go offline, you should be branded up as well. The number of people that stopped at traffic lights, wrote down our think tank group domain name for our lettings agency. I had a Volvo V90. I had a Porsche 911 and a Volvo, as you do. And I stick it up the Volvo, and we got loads of leads off that Volvo. And like, it beggars belief. Why is your car not stickered up? Why is it not an advert for you? And so I think people need to improve what they do, both online. Obviously, we're an online digital marketing agency, so we talk a lot about that. But we spoke about business cards being branded properly, and your cars being branded, and you being branded. So everybody you get to meet is going to know who you are. It doesn't have to be massive and in your face, like a full thing. It can be just small. But I think people have to up their game, especially in 2025, because it is harder to close business than ever before, and nobody trusts anybody.
I'll go along with that. Yes.
Yeah.
So are we going to see you in a branded T-shirt next time we do this then?
I'm going to see you in my branded T-shirt. What are you on about? Well, actually, I'm going to order them and deliver them to the UK, because this is the challenge I've got on creating this T-shirt. Is I design it and I think, oh, you just look a bit of a twat, really. And but this is for technical, tactical, strategic, and the mindset getting in the way. So, and also this is me trying to design a T-shirt, right? But if you take Under Armour, yeah, let's have that. What should we do with it? I don't know. Stick it on a hoodie. Go on then. Done.
Yeah.
What? How much we sell it for? 70 quid? Yeah, go on, that'll do. Do you know what I mean?
It is like that, though, isn't it?
It is like that. It is like that. So yeah, we'll get some orders in. I'll get one delivered to your house. And could you imagine? I love the not a twat thing in reverse in the mirror.
I like that in a mirror, actually. Yeah.
Oh, it's worth spending 20 quid just for that. I might send it to you. Right, I think we'll do for today, because we've covered an awful lot. Covered everything I wanted to cover. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, mate, I just love hearing to you drone on.
I'm very good at it. It's like a special skill of mine that I've magically discovered. But the reason why this came up is because after Fun Hiking Live, there was like a blah, 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 blah. I was like just like a stream of consciousness coming out of my mouth, right? And I was like, oh, this would make a really good podcast, and we can then pull little shorts out of it. And long form copy or long form live streams. Like Donald Trump won the presidency on his long form live stream. He did a 3-hour podcast show with Joe Rogan, for example. Kamala Harris said she wasn't going to do that, wasn't in her interest, which was crazy because she had a direct route to the people that were voting for Donald Trump because it's Joe Rogan and he's Donald Trump. And she turned that down in order to speak to her audience who was already voting for her, which totally makes no sense. And she didn't want to get on a plane because her time's valuable to speak to the very people that were voting for Donald Trump when she could have persuaded some of them to vote for her. And it's like, it didn't make sense. So long form copy, not everybody has time to do it, obviously. But this is something I'd like to get in once a week, maybe not for as long as this, maybe an hour, because it's tiring live streaming for more than an hour, you know? And then maybe we'll have 3 or 4 topics that we'll talk about. We'll have a rant about tenants again. I think that should be a regular feature. And then just an update on what's going on. And then if other people want to suggest stuff as well, I think that would work really well.
See what people want to suggest.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right. Well, thank you very much, Dave. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll catch up with you on the next one. Have a good day.
Correct. Cheers.
Hey, it's Dan here. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Please click like or subscribe to the entire podcast.